Okay, good evening, everybody. So the little miniature workshop class that I'm getting ready to do, I'm gonna try to do this under 5 minutes, 10 minutes max. But I used to do a lot of classes when I did a lot of consulting in Atlanta to try to teach people how do you make money in Atlanta. So you have to know how Atlanta is constructed, and so in what kind of goes into it. So this is going to be like an overview. And here's the thing too. What I'm gonna start doing with these videos, in essence, I'm offering like a free video consulting thing. So if you got something that you want some help on or consulting on, if you hit me back in the inbox or whatever, the DM me or all that stuff, I'll start trying to make videos about whatever it is that you're working on. And then so you technically gonna get some free consulting and advisement and all that stuff. And if I don't know it, I'm gonna find somebody that knows it. So this particular diagram that I'm getting ready to work on is what does Atlanta look like? So here's how this works. Okay, that little diagram right there, and I know it's got a little glare on it, but that little diagram right there is actually the way Atlanta is shaped. And see, so how this works is at the very top, first of all, this is north, south, east, west. This is 75 up here, 85 right here, 85 south down here, 75 south right here, 20 west, 20 east. And then the thing about Atlanta, you got 285. Got 285 here, 285 here, of course. And so to give you an idea about 285 is 63 miles in the inside, 66 miles on the outside. And it goes through 4 counties. 285 goes through 4 counties. 285 goes through Cobb. And awkwardly, Fulton actually runs through the middle. And so Fulton County follows the Chattahoochee River over to the west. And then it's got this weird kind of odd shape that it goes through. And then Georgia 400 goes up here. So Fulton County goes up north and it comes down south and all that good stuff. And it has the other 3 counties touching it. So on this side, this is DeKalb. Down here is Clayton. And then the way this is set up is in between where 85 and 75 kind of split, you have the Atlanta Airport. The Atlanta Airport, by the way, is actually in Clayton County. So, or at least the majority of it is. And so the idea is that most people don't understand that it's not as simple as just living in Atlanta by itself. The overall population of Atlanta by itself is 4.6 million people. The state of Georgia has now 10.6 million people. And then Cobb County has 766,000. I think it's 766,000 that Cobb County has. DeKalb County actually has about the same amount, 766. And then you've got Clayton County. Clayton County only has 295,000 people. 295,000 people. And then remember I said Atlanta in Atlanta they pretty much include they include pretty much the entire perimeter for the most part. So that's where a lot of those numbers are coming from. So Atlanta's population itself, which I do not have at the moment, Atlanta's population by itself is not actually the full 4.6. Fulton County, though, on the other hand, has 1.1 million people. And see, so the idea is that if you understand the way the infrastructure of Atlanta works, then it should give you an idea actually of how to approach where you want to live. If you're not in business, you're just trying to figure out where you want to live and what you want to do. As far as the infrastructure of the city, the Department of Transportation for the state of Georgia is forever doing projects, multi-billion-dollar projects. So you have to learn how to follow the path of what they're doing with that. Oh, by the way, this is how this works. 75 north. First of all, any highway that ends in an odd number, 75, 85, and so on, goes north and south. North and south. 75 and 85 go north and south. Any highway that ends in an even number goes east and west. East and west. So the highway 75 is actually longer than all of them. 75 goes through, I think, 5 states. So 75, if you take 75 north and go north until you can't go anymore, it literally will take you up into Michigan, and then at some point you literally can cross over the bridge and go over to Canada. But 75 takes you through Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Ohio. I'm leaving one out. Florida. So I think there's at least 5, but it takes you up north. And so you keep on going through. So that's why the traffic sometimes in Atlanta can be so bad. It's not all just people living in Atlanta. We're a transport state. So, I mean, we're a transport city and transport state for the most part. So 75 north will take you all the way to Canada, and 75 south actually will take you to Miami. It will take you down to, from what I was told, Alligator Junction. It'll take you down through Tampa and all that kind of stuff. And it does not actually go through Orlando. And it'll take you down through 75 to Tampa, and then it takes you down to the bottom of Florida and swings over to the east to take you to Miami, or to the Miami area. And okay, so 85 south by itself goes to pretty much the bottom of Alabama. But when it goes up north, it goes through, it actually goes Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and then it connects to I-95 right before Richmond, I think, in Richmond, Virginia at the time. See, so again, a major transport. Now, 20 west. If you take 20 west, where will it take you? 20 west will take you to Texas, where it connects to I-10, and it will literally take you straight into LA. So you're talking about it takes you from South Carolina. Oh, well, it goes 20 east. 20 east takes you to South Carolina, and once again tries to connect to I-95, which of course will take you to the coast. So 20 pretty much can take you coast to coast. And so the idea of what does 20 take you? It takes you from South Carolina to Georgia to Alabama to Mississippi to Louisiana to Texas. And then at which point, like I said, it connects to I-10, that takes you to New Mexico, Arizona, and then takes you into California. And so what you have to be able to understand about Atlanta was built the way businesses were built inside of the perimeter of the city. And so in 2005, I worked with a lot of real estate people, and I was able to tell them that I thought there was going to be a crash coming based on how businesses were structured in Atlanta. If you pretty much worked for the airport, you lived in Clayton County, South Fulton, and you pretty much lived out in some particular radius of, you lived in Henry County or you lived in Hateville. It pretty much generated that population in that particular area just from the airport by itself. If you lived in Cobb, then you obviously had the base, you had Lockheed, and of course at some point Home Depot, and then you had the entire Galleria area that was growing over that time period, and then you had Kennesaw and all that stuff that was generating. And then plus in the 70s and the 80s and all that stuff, as Highway 75 grew, then obviously the area grew. In the 80s, Georgia had the 5 fastest growing counties. So you kind of get an idea of that as the infrastructure inside of each one of the counties formulated, then that's where the money and the value was being made. And so then in DeKalb County, very interesting, because the perimeter area popped up and started growing. You had the colleges, Emory and all the other, Mercer and all those different colleges that were growing, that were sustaining the community as a whole. And then you have, for the primary thing, you had the GM plant. You had, and also that was the other thing about in the 75-85 crossing area where the Atlanta airport, you also had the Ford Motor Company had their factory there, which is now the Porsche factory during the time period. But DeKalb pretty much sustained itself from the perimeter area all the way around to probably Highway 78. And then they kind of let it kind of still, because they didn't bring MARTA out any further than the Indian Hills, I think it is, and some other places and stuff like that. So there's still strategies and plans. So what you have to be able to understand is, what is Atlanta Regional Commission or some of the other, or Invest in Atlanta and all that stuff, what is their actual regional plan for Atlanta? Well, they're trying to tie Atlanta to a intermodal, which they're bringing in trains and cargo and all this stuff. And of course, Savannah is a direct tie to Atlanta in regards to how the port system and everything else is working too. So real quick, you got 75 all the way. 75 north takes you to Ohio. 75 south takes you to Miami. 85 south takes you to the Gulf of Alabama, pretty much. 85 north takes you to Virginia and I-9. Highway 20 can take you all the way to California. If you're going west. No, by the way, Six Flags is out this way. You got Whitewater and all that stuff up here. Those are 2 companies tied together. You got Georgia 400. Georgia 400 built up a call center district at one point, and a call center, medical areas, and all this other stuff that they were able to do. And so they were able to sustain the pricing and stuff. Pretty much if you live off of 285, it's expensive. And so, inside the perimeter as a whole is getting a little bit more expensive. So I promise to try to keep these short. And I'm trying to keep it under 10 minutes, so I'm not going to make it any longer than that. But anyway, all that can help, let me know. We got some pretty good things going on. Looking forward to sharing more with y'all. Have a good weekend. Take care.